The trial, State of Florida vs. George Zimmerman. George Zimmerman went before Judge Deborah Nelson on June 10, 2013. Charged with second-degree murder and a lesser charge of manslaughter of shooting to death a 17-year-old boy, Trayvon Martin, on February 26, 2012. The defense, Mark O'Mara, defended Zimmerman that he was not guilty on both charges for the act of self-defense. The prosecution, Angela Corey, Bernie de la Rienda, and John Guy, seeking to find Zimmerman guilty on both charges of killing Trayvon Martin. During the pretrial on April 12, Judge Mark Hare ruled that the affidavit was legally sufficient to establish probable cause. Then Zimmerman was released on a $150,000 bond and an electronic monitoring bracelet. When the trial started on June 10, 2013, the defense opened with what one of the jurors had said: "A young man lost his life, another is fighting for his. No one wins." He uses a strategy of his own personal memories to help let the jury understand that everyone feels the same way as Martin's parents did at some point in their life. He uses a model of the community where Zimmerman lives. He also uses the 911 call as part of the evidence. The prosecution opened with what Zimmerman had said on the 911 call: "Fucking punks, these asses always get away." John Guy also talks about how Martin was armed with a fruit drink and a bag of Skittles. He also repeated what Zimmerman said many times again. The strong points for the defense was that Zimmerman was only using self-defense as a tactic for saving his own life. As for the weak points, they only had a few pieces of evidence. The defense brought multiple witnesses to the stand, which included Gladys Zimmerman, Sandra Osterman, Mark Osterman, Jerry Russo, Lena Benjamin, and Joe Donnelly, who all testified that Zimmerman was not guilty and was also the one on the phone yelling for help. The strong points for the prosecution is that they had a good way of persuading to the jury Zimmerman was guilty of second-degree murder by how he is an angry and violent person. The prosecution also brought multiple witnesses and evidence of the bag of Skittles, a picture of Martin dead, and the jacket Martin was wearing. The witnesses consisted of Selene Bahadur, Rachel Giantel, Officer Chris Sermio, and Anthony Gorgoni. These witnesses were key to how the fight was. The defense closing statement portrayed Zimmerman as a man who was just concerned about his neighborhood. Shows how Zimmerman had a fatal struggle when Martin threw the first punch and later straddled Zimmerman, and the only way of getting out of the situation of not being killed himself was by self-defense, shooting Trayvon Martin. The prosecution's closing statement tries to make Zimmerman out to be an angry man who tracked Trayvon Martin through a gated community and provoked the confrontation that claimed the teenager's life. A teenager is dead. He's dead not just because the man made those assumptions, but because he acted on those assumptions, and unfortunately, because his assumptions were wrong, Trayvon Benjamin Martin no longer walks on this earth. Quoted. After 16.5 hours, the jury found George Zimmerman not guilty of second-degree murder of the death of Trayvon Martin.